What's going on, everybody? David here. Today, we're going to talk about the Paycheck Security Act. So the Senate convened yesterday. So that was their first day back. And there are a lot of different proposals that are starting to come up. Now, this is not a new proposal. This was actually proposed back in April 17th. And they have a few co-sponsors right now. And it's a pretty good, it's pretty solid. We're going to go over all the details. But first off, on this channel, we talk about personal finance and traveling on a budget. If that sounds like something interesting to you, please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget that little bell notification so you can get future updates on my videos. So the plan would cover wages and benefits of furloughed and laid off workers at businesses and nonprofits that have seen a 20% drop in revenue. So if they've seen a drop in revenue, that's when the government would step in and say, okay, you can apply for this grant. You get this grant money. This grant money is going to go to pay for the employees and also pay for 20% of your revenue loss. So let's say you need to pay rent, you need to pay some other things, that 20% would go to that. So they're not giving the business like 100% of all their revenue and all that, but they are giving them a percentage. That way they can pay their light bill and all that stuff to keep the business there, even though it's not open, just keep it there. That way when they get back to business, they have a business to actually go back to. Now, there are some limitations, and one of the limitations is the $90,000. So the salary caps off at $90,000. So if you make more than $90,000, then you're not going to qualify for this. Now, I don't know if that means that if you make over $90,000, you'll get a certain amount, or if you make over $90,000, you don't get anything at all. I don't know how if they've distinguished between that or not giving it. So let's say you make $100,000. Well, you're not going to get anything for that extra $10,000, but you will get something for up to $90,000. So that's something that hasn't really been put out there yet. But that's the cutoff, $90,000. Now, something else that's very, very important to note is it says plus benefits. So they're keeping the healthcare benefits intact, which is, I think it's really good because people on unemployment right now, they're not getting any type of healthcare. They have to apply for Medicaid or something like that. So not only do they have to apply for unemployment, but they have to go and apply for Medicaid or Medicare or something else to give them some type of medical benefits. And I don't care what side of the aisle you're on when it comes to should we have universal health care or not, but I think we can all agree that healthcare is very important. And if you're working in a job and then all of a sudden you're laid off or furloughed and you're not able to get that health care anymore, that can have a drastic effect, especially if you're already sick. Like, so let's say you're sick already and now your health care is gone and you're left with nothing. Like, how do you get your medication? How do you get treatment and all that? So I think this is really good in the sense that they're keeping the benefits intact. Whereas if you just lay people off, they have to go to unemployment. Then they're going to have to kind of start all over as far as filling out the unemployment paperwork, filling out Medicaid paperwork, and then trying to go from there. Now, this program will replace the PPP program. So once the PPP program has run its course and it's out of money, then this program would come in. And then that way the employers can call their employees and say, hey, you know what? I can't have you come back to work right now, but I am going to start paying your salary. And so that will keep them there, right? So if my employer was paying my salary, even though I wasn't working, that would keep me engaged with that business. And they can still do, even if it's a situation, they can do some work from home stuff. Maybe it's not, maybe they're a waiter or a waitress, but they can still do work from home stuff, whatever the business might want them to do. So there are situations where they can make it work, even though they're not physically there and they're still receiving their paycheck. So it's going to keep them in that job. What could happen in a lot of these situations is let's say you have a business, you lay someone off. If you lay them off, they can go to another job and get another job. So now you've lost that person. Not only have you lost that person, but you've lost the training that you put into that person. Now, this plan is not new. This is something that the old CARES Act bill had in there for airline employees. So it's not something that's just out of left field. This is something that they've enacted, but not on a large scale. This would be a larger scale. So Senator Doug Jones, who is the co-author of this proposal, was on a phone call, with reporters last Friday, and he said the following. The Paycheck Security Act would save American workers paychecks and existing health care and keep the businesses that hire them afloat amid the COVID-19 crisis. So what are the benefits of this proposal? So the first thing is the whole unemployment thing. And we know unemployment's been really, really bogged down. All the different states are trying to figure out and scramble to figure out what they're going to do. And so this would allow for the employer to keep these employees and still pay them. And so they don't have to file for unemployment. So that will alleviate some people from having to go to unemployment. It'll open up some more room for other people who really need unemployment where their employees are not taking part in this grant. So I think that's a really good thing. Plus, I talked about the healthcare issue before. You get to continue to keep your healthcare, which I think is very, very important, especially for people who are already sick. And I'm not saying with coronavirus, I'm just saying they might be sick in general, but they're working and they have healthcare. And so now they're put in a situation where they don't have healthcare anymore. So this will allow them to stay on their regular healthcare, go see the same doctor that they see and all that, and they don't have to make any changes. Another thing is just knowing that you are still employed, even though you're not working. Let's say you're furloughed or you're laid off, but you still have income coming in, then you can pay your rent, you can pay your mortgage, you can go to grocery stores, and you can really stimulate the economy that way. I think one of the problems that they're having right now is the fact that you're giving out stimulus checks. People don't know when those stimulus checks are coming out. Some people still haven't received their stimulus checks. Some people won't receive their stimulus checks until September. They could receive it in September of this year. So they're not using that money to stimulate the economy because a lot of them either don't have it or they don't know when it's coming, so they can't really plan for it. And as far as paying their rent and all that, I mean, there's so many different things that are going on right now with the current situation and the problems with the IRS sending checks to dead people, sending checks to people outside of the country who should not have ever received a check. It's just it's kind of a crazy situation. I will say this though, the IRS has been able to get these checks out to 130 million people, which is a good accomplishment. I mean, there's a lot that needed to happen. And basically, Congress and the president just put this on the lap of IRS and said, hey, you guys just need to handle this however you can handle it. So, you know, I'm not blaming the IRS when it comes down to this whole situation, but we have to face reality. There have been some problems along the way, and there are people that are still waiting for checks. So I think something like this, where now you have a lot of these people who were laid off, they can now start getting their salary back. And then when they're ready to go to work, when they're ready to go back to work, that's going to be that smooth transition because you don't have to train them because they've already been trained. And when they're ready to go, you just call them back up and open up business. So I think just looking at this proposal, it has a lot of good things about it. And the whole push right now with the White House and with the majority leader in the Senate is like, let's get people back to work. Let's get people back to work. That's great. But you can keep them interested in going back to work if you're paying their salary from their employer, right? So if their employer is paying, then as soon as their employer calls them up, they'll go back to work. One of the things that people were talking about is unemployment. People are making unemployment. They're making more money in unemployment than they are in their regular job and things like that. And they might not answer the phone when that phone call comes in from their employer saying, hey, we're ready to hire you back. But if it's a situation where your employer is the one that's actually paying you, then when they call you, then yeah, you'll be willing to go back. And realistically, you can't avoid that phone call, right? So with this proposal right now, I think it could pick up some steam. I think there are 3 other co-sponsors. So I think there's 3 or 4 of them all together right now as far as sponsoring this proposal. And they're all senators, so they can move it through the Senate really fast and then get it back down to the House and see what the House says about it. But I think it has some promise. I really do. Looking at some of the other different programs, and we're still not forgetting about the Hero Fund or the Patriot Pay. We're not forgetting about that, but we are looking at a situation where you have people who are laid off right now. How do you handle those people? And I think this would be a great way to handle those people right now and then get them back to work. And I think when it comes down to businesses, I think they'd be really, really on board with this. So the main reason for it is because you don't have to train new employees. So if I lay an employee off, that employee can go somewhere else. And then now I have to hire a brand new person and train that person. So not only am I strapped for cash in this bad situation that we're in right now, but now I have to train a new person and then get them back up to speed. Whereas if I have those same employees and I never lose those employees, I'd be able to start a business and it'll be just like it was before. So I want to know what you guys think about this. Please let us know down below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.